Good morning from thundery Sunshine Coast. These tropical storms are...
They're a sight to behold.
They're amazing though. Like this morning, we woke up in bed.
Wow.
And how cosy was it being in bed when it was rumbly like this? It was really cosy being in bed.
We knew it was coming, so we'd left the window slightly ajar just to hear it, and it was very peaceful to wake up to. But pretty much all day, it's just been like this consistently.
There was a break where it was sunny and Joe was in the pool and stuff jumping in, and it was fine, and then it's just come back again. I don't even know if you can see the sheer craziness. Like, you can't fully see the rain that well on camera.
So as you can see, that's probably the best perspective to see how heavy it's coming down. I'm sure you can see it on camera, but that is the craziness.
And we are now going to a photo shoot in this, which we were expecting blue skies. It's a gorgeous location. Bit of a shame it's like this.
Ah, well, I'm sure that we can still get some great stuff inside. What the main thing is that we're going to do today in today's video is, because we're not able to get out and do too much, we kind of predicted this would be the case. So what we're going to go ahead and do is do our photo shoot, wrap up there, come back, and then basically have a sit down and a chat about cultural differences. This rain is kind of a taste of home, but
very different.
We don't get storms this crazy and this cool. Pretty much boring rain, I would say, and the heat's still there. So we're going to sit down and run through all of the differences that we've noticed as two Brits living in Queensland specifically. So some of these might not be the same as people living on the west coast of Australia, or potentially even in places like Sydney, Melbourne. These are our experiences. So we're going to run you through the cultural differences that we've noticed living in Australia for 3 months. Let's get to work.
So luckily the sun's come out, so it's looking a bit nicer for the photo shoot. It's bright, wonderful.
I'm manifesting, Cody, I'm manifesting.
It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's pretty mental. Like, I've not seen rain like this during daytime hours. It's been like this at night, but as you can see, it is absolutely hammering it down.
So that is our shoot wrapped up in Noosa, and we are now probably at the nicest period of the day at 5:45. What is going on? Look, this is the nicest it's been all day, and it's nearly sunset. But we're going to go and find a little spot, have a little wander around, maybe grab a bite to eat, and have a little bit of a chat to camera about our experiences so far.
With today being a rainy day, we think we've been here long enough now that we can potentially compare some culture shocks that we've noticed since coming to Australia from the UK. So we've got quite a few on the list.
What we've done is, over the last week or so, I've actually compiled a list together of things that I've noticed, and then Cody's added some stuff as well as we've kind of gone. So these are kind of the big differences that we've noticed since living in Australia, some culture shocks as Brits coming to Australia.
So the first point that we wanted to bring up was how smaller towns close up really early. So you can't get like a takeaway in our area after like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, everything closes up early. Coffee shops are early. Coffee shops are like 2 p.m. I understand that they start earlier. That's the difference here. Like, everybody starts earlier.
Things get up a bit earlier, a bit sooner.
Yeah, and I think it might be for like the tradies or whatever. But yeah, that's just something again that we've noticed. Like sometimes we'll want to go to a cafe at 2 o'clock. And we're like, oh, they're all closed.
Whereas
now.
back home in the UK, that's not the case. And now, I know some people watching might be like, oh, that's not the case in Sydney, that's not the case in some of the bigger cities, but definitely the smaller towns seem to be that way. And the thing that throws you is in the UK, the smaller towns, coffee shops don't do that. So that's the difference. The small town kind of nature to it is a lot different. The city's probably quite similar. So the second point I wanted to cover was actually about the coffee. Now, there's something particular about the coffee being Brit, which is, one, we're not used to the quality of coffee. The quality of coffee over here is much higher. A lot of the Aussies are known for the good quality cafes, good quality of roasting of beans. They go for a lot of organic beans. They really do care about it. Whereas in the UK, I wouldn't say, again, in smaller towns, it's as focused on as much as it is here. And one of the biggies is, as Brits, usually what you do when the weather is hot, you would get an iced coffee. Whereas in the colder months, that's when you would get, like in your winter, because it goes down to 4, 5, even into your minuses, that's when you would get your cappuccino. That's when you would get your kind of hotter drinks. Whereas here, because we've just moved over, we're constantly ordering iced lattes. We're constantly ordering iced mochas. And people look at you a bit strange, like, why on earth are you doing that? So Aussies, they kind of stick to the flat whites. They stick to, like, you know, the basic black coffee, and they don't always go for the kind of fancier frappes and stuff like that.
The next point that we wanted to cover is the size.
Splash.
The size of the roads are much bigger than in the UK here in Australia. Like this part of Queensland, roads are much bigger, vehicles are much bigger. So you have like the big utes, you have like the Ram style cars.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that really. Like if you see something like in the UK, that is very rare.
Yeah.
Where like every second car is like that here.
They wouldn't get down the roads. That's
No.
like the biggie, isn't it?
Yeah, the roads in the UK are so small. Like sometimes you go down in a tiny car and it's like you're even struggling to get down.
The next point, which is kind of a biggie, is something that people are constantly commenting to us, and I'm glad they did at the beginning. Now we've kind of got used to it and started doing it a lot more, which is to top up on sunscreen, or as we call it, sun cream, and top up with mosquito spray. Obviously, this is something that we don't really have to deal with in the UK consistently. Maybe if you're going on holiday, you would get sun cream. But particularly in Australia, because of the UVs, because of how strong it is, it's something that they really are adamant on. A lot more, as we've been going around, we've seen a lot, like more than I've ever seen in my life, which is like skin cancer clinics and like melanoma clinics and stuff, people that are skin specialists. And you can tell that it really is something that people focusing on, make sure that you're aware of here. Because as Europeans and even Brits, you're not really used to that like low level of UV, and no doubt you could end up doing yourself some damage. So constantly being topped up on sun cream and mosquito spray is something we don't really do in the UK, and that has been a big change.
Another thing that we've noticed is the supermarkets are a little bit more pricey here. Not by much, but a little bit more pricey. But eating out is probably equivalent or cheaper.
Yeah.
So like some cuisine, so like Thai food and Japanese food are more readily available here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper than in the UK, like by quite a bit more. So yeah, it kind of balances out. You find that you are available to eat out a bit more. Well, we are personally, obviously everyone's different. Just simply because of how much it does cost to go to the supermarkets anyway.
Definitely. It doesn't seem to be cheaper, does it? Like you said, the supermarkets seem to be like, if not just as or more expensive than back home, so you don't feel like you're getting a good deal. But you eat out at a place and you're like, oh, this is a bargain. You end up buying and it ends up costing you probably more because you're eating out a lot more than you usually used to. So specifically here in Queensland, where we're living on the Sunshine Coast, there isn't too much of a change during the daylight hours over a year. This is something that we've actually experienced as the seasons have changed. And also a huge one is that they don't actually partake in daylight saving hours.
No, it's quite unusual,
So
isn't it?
you don't lose an hour or gain an hour any time during the year, whereas in the UK that is something that you do. But it makes sense to do it in the UK because in the winter it goes dark at 3 o'clock, and then in the summer it goes dark at 10 o'clock at night. So that span is a full 7 hours of light changing through the year, whereas here you probably gain about an hour or maybe 2 hours of light here and there between the two differences at like its max and its difference, I think.
It's not too different.
Yeah, it might change a little bit more than that, but the change up in light has not really shifted too much. So it does make sense. I know a couple of the other states and territories do that as well. So for example, we're quite close in like the grand scheme of like a car journey to New South Wales, and New South Wales do change the time. So they do have daylight saving hours. So it is a bit peculiar how you can be in the same country. Some states and territories do it, some states and territories don't, I think. So it can be a bit confusing if you're not used to it as a Brit.
The next point, that if you've watched one of the previous videos, you know that I got very excited about, and it is air in your tyres being free. I don't want to wish this on Australia to ever have to pay for it, ever, ever, ever. So I hope, like, you know, word doesn't get out
That's
about
it.
But in the UK, you do have to pay, and it can be as
At a
much
service
as,
station, you
at a
pay to
service
pump up
station.
your tyres.
And it can be anything from equivalent in dollars, it'd be like $1 to $4 to
Yeah,
do it, believe it or not. It's really expensive, and so that really shocked me. And another one on that about things being free are the poo bags. Like, as a dog owner, it makes a huge difference having dog poo bags available all the time. Like, we have dog poo bags anyway, like attached to the lead, but it's so handy that if you run out or you need more or you're picking up other people's dog poo,
Yeah, which we did. We did that the other day.
So yeah, that's really good. And then another one is the barbecues, the free facilities for grilling and barbecues. Not something that we have in the UK, and if we did, I feel like they get vandalised. I'm sure you've had issues where yours have been vandalised as well, unfortunately, but it would be a consistent issue that our councils probably wouldn't pay for. And so all those three things being free is a massive, massive difference, I think.
Huge.
Small things make a big difference when you're living somewhere. You know, you pay taxes, and it just kind of makes like you're happier to pay your taxes when you've got things like this, you know, free facilities. Three really good.
Something that
bits.
Aussies might not even really recognise as well, and there's probably a few other things like the whole point of like water fountains being so readily available.
And toilets.
So the public toilets aren't just on coastal towns, they're also inland at small towns that we've been to and visited that maybe aren't as tourist friendly. So it's just nice to see that these public toilets are in place, because back in the UK, if you are in these kind of public places, even more so in a city centre, if you do want to go to a toilet, you have to go into an establishment, a pub, a restaurant, and like kind of awkwardly ask, am I okay to use the toilet? And this is actually something that you face in Europe as well. The thing is, in Europe, is in a lot of European countries and cities that we've been to, they have public toilets, but you have to go in and pay. Whereas here, they're just there and readily available. So it's a nice touch.
So the next point is about the bins getting collected. So where we live in a small town in Manchester, the bins get collected now every 3 weeks.
And this is recycling bins as well.
Yeah,
This
so it
is
never
not
used
just-
to be.
yeah.
Never used to be that way, but unfortunately due to cutbacks that is now the case. So with the bins being collected here every week, that is one of the things we noticed when we first got here, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
We
I'm
were
not
like,
sure whether this is the consistent for every place in Australia. Other people might tell us otherwise, but it was a big change up. We kind of like started speaking to people that we were like the guys that live upstairs and stuff from where we live. And as we were speaking to them, we were like, wait, the bins are out again? They're getting collected again this week? And they were like, yeah, they get taken weekly. And we were like, that's every 3 weeks, including recycling. So each bin, even if it's a different separate recycling bin, only gets collected on a schedule of once every 3 weeks. And it's very odd. The next point is speaking about the birds. Now, specifically, not just birds in nature, we've actually done that in another video, but speaking about how all the birds here attacked you and other birds. Now, that's not something we've really ever experienced. Birds attacking each other. Like, you'll be driving a car and you'll be like, oh wait, another bird's attacking another bird, and it could be small, big, you know, whatever kind of birds. They seem to all like be fighting for just like location and area, but then also the bird call is quite strong as well. So we spoke to somebody from Australia before we came out living here, and they were saying what their personal thought is that the birds in Australia kind of have like an attacking bird call, whereas the bird call in the UK is more of a kind of quieter, relaxed sound. And they kind of like, there's a bit of a symphony to it. And this is an Australian's take. And then we didn't really know what they meant. And then since we've come out, we kind of know what they mean. But the weird thing is for us as Brits, because we're used to the kind of bird call back home, it's lovely and all. When you come out here now, living as a Brit, we love hearing the different kind of bird call because we're not used to it, because it's so fresh. It really does sound so different, like kookaburras and the cockatoos, just so loud and in your face. But it's a new experience and we love it.
We're back on track with our steps now, and the next point is about how you guys are quite proud to have stuff in the supermarkets labelled as grown in Australia, and just very supportive of
Made in Australia.
made in
like I said,
Australia, even just supporting small businesses. It's all, I love it, it's great, and that's definitely more apparent than in the UK. As you might know, like in the UK we rely quite heavily on like Amazon. Amazon's like absolutely smashed every day. Like, you can order something today, get it by tonight.
And I'm sure that's the case in the bigger cities, but where we're currently living, it's really quite quiet in comparison to the bustle and what we would kind of call the rat race. You call it the rat race, don't you, back home, where everybody's kind of got to be somewhere, nobody's ever happy where they are. That kind of lifestyle off that point, it's not really seen here. It might be in some of the bigger cities, even Brisbane, for example, Sydney, Melbourne. But here, it's a lot more of a relaxed, kind of chilled lifestyle. And that suits us currently, down to a T. And as we walk past a basketball court, we're going to say one of our last points. And one of our last points is actually about the sport. Now, sport out here is pretty different, but quite similar in certain ways to the UK. The ways in which it's similar, for example, cricket, rugby league, rugby union, all very popular in the UK and all very popular out here. But one of the biggies that I've noticed is people like to play soccer. Obviously, the name's a big difference, but soccer, football back in the UK is the biggest sport. Like, hands down, it's the sport that the majority of kids at school are playing, the majority of kids are watching. I would say probably around about 80% of kids have a team at school.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I don't even know if they do. They might kind of have a team, but it's a lot more. There's AFL, which isn't really around in the UK. Rugby league, where we are currently, is massive. Cricket, and you see a lot of people playing basketball. You see a lot of people playing soccer, but maybe not watching it directly as much. I'm guessing it's on the grow, but it's still, in the UK, it's different levels. And trying to watch it...
Watching it is
Trying
so
to watch
difficult.
it as a Brit,
There's only one team to watch, so if you are a soccer fan, comment below and let us know who you support.
I know
there's
there's
only one team.
There's a couple of Scousers watching, a couple of Liverpool fans, and I'm glad that you're watching, but when it comes to football, we might have to disagree. As the sun starts to descend and we're losing light, that has been a wrap up on a few cultural differences we've noticed as Brits living in Australia for about 3 months. A lot of these might be specific to Queensland, but there are a few cultural differences within living in Australia that we have noticed. If you think we've missed a few points, we actually did do a video a couple of weeks back speaking about some other points that we'd noticed since moving over, like the nature, the weather. So if you want to see us speak about them, or you think we've missed anything, check that out and see what you think there. But with that all being said and done, we are now back home and we are wrapped up for the day's vlog. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Whether that's commenting, liking, subscribing, whatever you can do, does mean the world. Really, really does. A huge difference. So little, but so much. And a big, big shout out to all of our members on the channel who have been supporting us. Flash up on screen now to all of you guys. You guys have been immense. We will continue to be showing you guys and any future members who join the membership on the channel, buy us a coffee and get your name on future videos. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I have been Joe. Cody is not with me currently. She's actually out, but I shall see you very soon. See you in the next one. Adios.